The myth versus reality. Have you ever looked at a billionaire and thought, man, they've always had it figured out? Jet-setting across the world, owning airlines, music empires, even space rockets. Richard Branson. The name itself feels like luxury, success, freedom. But behind the fame, behind the glamour, is a story most people don't know. A story of rejection, loss, and 15 major failures. Before the Virgin Empire was born, he was a dyslexic school dropout, a teen with no money, a boy who got arrested for fraud before his 21st birthday. He failed in magazines, he failed in cars, in fashion, in soda, in digital, in space. This is not just a success story, it's a blueprint for surviving failure. Because the man who built an empire also failed harder than most of us ever will. You think success is sexy? Wait till you see how messy it really was. The dyslexic dropout. Before he built billion-dollar companies, Richard Branson couldn't even pass his school exams. Diagnosed with dyslexia, his teachers labeled him lazy, slow, and hopeless. He couldn't read properly until he was almost a teenager. But young Branson had something school couldn't measure: creativity, hustle, and rebellion. He dropped out of school at age 16. Instead of chasing grades, he launched a student magazine. The idea? Give young people a voice, interview rock stars, expose taboo topics. He borrowed money, sold ads, called everyone himself. But the magazine barely sold. Failure number 1. Still, Branson wasn't discouraged. He was just getting started. He learned one thing that would define his life. You don't need a degree to make an impact. In a world that said, you can't, Richard was already whispering, watch me. The first hustle, record store scandal. After the magazine failed, Richard had a new idea: sell discounted records by mail order. He found a loophole: avoid UK sales tax by shipping from abroad. Business boomed. Orders flooded in. Branson thought he'd hacked the system, but the government thought differently. He was caught falsifying invoices, charged, fined, jailed overnight. His mother had to mortgage their home to pay the fine. Failure number 2. He nearly lost everything before he was 21, but the scandal taught him a lesson. Be bold, but be legal. And out of this chaos, Virgin Records was born. Virgin, because they were all new. New to business, new to risk, but determined to leave their mark. Virgin Records takes off. Despite the scandal, Richard Branson wasn't done. He poured everything into one dream: starting a record label. With little cash but big ambition, Virgin Records signed an unknown artist, Mike Oldfield. His album, Tubular Bells, became a massive hit, even featured in The Exorcist. Branson suddenly had credibility. He began signing major acts: the Sex Pistols, Culture Club, even the Rolling Stones. For the first time, Virgin was flying high. But success is a tricky thing. It can make you feel invincible. And that's when Branson started dreaming bigger and falling harder. The flight that almost crashed, Virgin Atlantic's risk. By the 1980s, Richard Branson was riding high. Virgin Records was a giant. The music world was his playground. But then, he saw a delayed flight. He saw people waiting, angry, stranded. And he said, why not start an airline? He knew nothing about aviation. No pilots, no airplanes, no licenses. Everyone laughed. But Branson did what Branson always did. He took the risk anyway. He leased one plane, just one. He called it Virgin Atlantic. On the first flight, disaster struck. The engine blew out mid-air. Everyone expected Virgin to vanish, but Branson personally greeted every passenger, apologized, offered refunds, and earned something priceless: loyalty. He didn't sell flights, he sold experience, a new kind of customer service in the sky. Virgin Atlantic survived, barely. Failure number 3, almost. Rescue number 1, definitely. It taught Branson, business is about humans, not just money. The cola catastrophe, going to war with Coca-Cola. By the 90s, Richard Branson had airlines, music, retail, even a train line. But his next idea? It was bold, audacious, almost reckless. If I can beat British Airways, he thought, why not beat Coca-Cola? And so, in 1994, Virgin Cola was born. He literally declared war. The media went wild. Cameras flashed, crowds cheered, the can looked sleek, the drink tasted great. Stores agreed to stock it. Sales took off in the UK. The US was next. But behind the scenes, the Coca-Cola empire didn't flinch. They mobilized. Fast. Coca-Cola sent teams across America, offering stores exclusive deals. You want Coke? Drop Virgin. Within 6 months, Virgin Cola was pushed off shelves. Their entire US launch collapsed. Branson had spent millions and had to admit, we lost this war. Failure, before, a brutal, public one. But Branson wasn't broken. He said, the brand wasn't wrong, the timing was. And just like that, he moved on. The digital disaster. Virgin Megastores and Virgin Digital. Branson once said, if you're not disrupting your own business, someone else will. But even visionaries make mistakes. And this time, Branson didn't see it coming. In the early 2000s, Virgin Megastores ruled global malls. But then came the internet. People stopped going to stores, and Branson's empire began to sink. He launched Virgin Digital, hoping to compete with iTunes. But it was too slow, too clunky, too late. In just a few years, Virgin's once golden stores were empty. Failure number 5. The world had changed, and Virgin hadn't changed fast enough. One former exec said, we had the content, but we missed the shift. Branson would later admit, we didn't understand tech the way we understood people. A costly lesson in timing, technology, and humility. Love, loss, and lawsuits. The British Airways war before Virgin Cola, before digital collapses. There was a war Branson never wanted, but had to fight. British Airways, threatened by Virgin Atlantic's rising success, launched a dirty campaign. They hacked into Virgin's systems. They stole passenger lists. They spread lies to the press. It was sabotage, and Branson knew it. He took them to court. David versus Goliath. A tiny airline versus the national carrier of Britain. It dragged on. Tense, public, expensive. And then, Virgin won. $3 million in damages. British Airways issued a public apology. Branson split the winnings with his staff. It wasn't just a legal win, it was a statement. Don't mess with the underdog. Failure number 6 was avoided, but it showed how close success can come to being destroyed. By envy, not error. Reaching for the stars, the space gamble. After land, air, and sound, Branson set his sights higher. Space. Virgin Galactic promised to make ordinary people into astronauts, to turn tourism into rocket science. Branson invested hundreds of millions. Test flights began. The press followed. Hype grew. Then, tragedy struck. 2014. A test pilot died during a crash. The mission was nearly shut down. Public confidence collapsed. Failure number 7. Painful, public, devastating. But Branson refused to quit. He said, we owe it to those who lost their lives to continue. And in 2021, he launched. Branson himself went to space, a dream 17 years in the making. He didn't build rockets for money. He built them for legacy. What failure really means. The legacy: 15 failures, public embarrassments, near bankruptcies, mockery, court cases, crashes. And yet, Richard Branson remains one of the most respected entrepreneurs on earth. Because failure never defined him. It refined him. In each mistake, he found a message. In each loss, he found learning. He didn't build Virgin by avoiding risk. He built it by embracing chaos. And through it all, one thing stayed the same: his smile, his belief, his refusal to give up. Maybe that's the real success. Not money, not fame, but resilience.